My name is Edwin. I make the mimic. It was difficult to put the pieces together. I don't know what that's from, but in my mind, it's just a canon Bryn vent. Something that is part and parcel of the Bren universe in the Brandon sphere of Brinfluence. Find my 1,000 love bugs, brave traveler, and be granted a piece of delicious key lime pie. The Florida Oracle be like, you should run empathetic situations in your head. Practicing if you don't already. Take somebody you love, your partner, your parents, and imagine yourself going through part of their day as long as possible, as grounded and as slow as possible, with their body, their constraints, their thoughts, and try to get that as accurately as possible. And it's sometimes it's real rough. Sometimes you'll be like, oh, should have treated that person better. You know, it'll help you to prevent that sort of real regret that you glean when your life flashes before your eyes without your ego. When you die, your DMT flushes out of your brain, the same DMT used to dream, and you see reality as it truly is. Your ego depersonalizes, and you see your life flashes before your eyes in very many ways. This is purgatory. To what extent that lingers, given the fact that you don't really come back, and how time dilates from that, and how long, that is entirely up to theological speculation. But one thing is pretty dang sure, it's pretty obvious that you can augur that heaven and hell is indeed something that you steep yourself in with your actions. And everybody essentially starts off on the right side. So it's very, 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 like, people who have miserable lives oftentimes end up being hurt people who hurt people, but it's very, very hard for a first world person, which is the sadness of a lot of modern America in the last 30 years, is that it's very, very hard for first world people to be born tortured scum that ends up creating more tortured scum through the trauma cycle. It's rare. It happens, but it's rare. And so the tortured scumification of our culture is exactly the reason why I'm clapping, and very excited that this structure that has been set up underneath us that does indeed manufacture and operate a lot of the problems that we are facing is under threat and is under duress. So, you know. Why about Twomp? Why about tariffs? Ooh. Like, I've been crying about Palestine for 11 years. So, I know how you feel. Just get over it. Keep going. Keep moving. Wake up, 4:30, eat thumbtacks. Immediately, I shower for an hour. Hypothermia is part of a healthy day. A lot of times I avoid things, not for disdain, but for fear I might fall too deeply in love with them. I'm sure some of you can relate. You know, there's actually a lot of really, really, really good people who have put up a big callus around themselves. Because indeed, and you can see that love seeping through that callus, but indeed it is a harsh world these days. You can hope that it gets better. Did you know Warcraft 3 custom games is where tower defense games originally came from? If you remember playing tower defense games on Flash and stuff. They originally, like, the entire thing, the entire concept, because they were trying to do a lot with a little, and towers and enemies and set unit pathing, was actually devised in Warcraft 3 custom games and then recreated through Flash games. And oh gosh, I played so many of them. If you only could see how many beautiful games there were. We had it all and we didn't even know it. The best, the best, the best, the best, oh yo. You know, evil tells on itself a lot. You just got to know the signs and you can see it. It could save your life. Topping off your battery on a day off is something you do for you. Going shopping and stuff like that is stuff others do for you. but you got to work on yourself to recharge and achieve happy homeostasis. It's work that you actually need to do. Otherwise, you will not achieve it and you'll feel constantly drained. You go into a store, there's a lot of stuff that is constantly monitored, and they're taking your money in exchange for the work that they do to provide a seamless, frictionless experience. But when you're on your own time and you're on your own terms, you got to actively work the same way as those department store workers work to maintain the storefront. You got to work to recharge yourself. And that's a big issue. Is like people genuinely do need more free time. People genuinely do need to have more focus and less distractions. And one of the big things that would make people a lot, even without, modifying the economy, is making people less sick by cleaning up the water, which is so easy to do. And they just, of course it's easy to do. And of course they don't do it because sickness is an industry. Sickness is not only an industry, it's a political tactic. So, I hope that the political establishment as it stands collapses. It's the best thing that you can hope for. Get these outsiders like RFK and Tulsi in there. It's one of the things that, support Bernie for is get that outsider in there, and then what happens, he folds to insiders and it breaks everybody's heart. It's just, it is what it is. I've said it 5 times already. Bloat and redundancy of moving parts is a big thing that sinks AI and postmodern design in general. All those moving parts that can break so much easier, especially if they're made with cheaper materials and quicker, because the bloat and the lack of focus has increased the pressure on those small moving parts, and it has to be 15 different companies collaborating like the F-35 in order to make this bloated industry, and then a whole bunch of moving parts, and then the thing breaks super easy. We can't offload F-35s quick enough. F-35s are kind of like the Cybertruck of the defense industry, as in they're sitting on lots, and people would rather... Did you know that the original F-35, we're on the F-35C now, but did you know the original F-35 would kill 1/3 of all the pilots that bailed out? It would shave the top of their head off because it was calculating with all these little things on the perfect way to launch people out of the cockpit, and it would just slam people up into the top of their cockpit sometimes because a little tab that doesn't pop off. Because, things weren't, it's not like we had things that worked before, for God's sakes, and we decided to mess them up with more moving parts and more bloat and less focus and less simplicity and decency. And, you can have a lot of moving parts as long as they're intelligently designed, and usually that's done by first designing a core concept and then slowly building around it and shaving off any contradictory and nonsensical things that you can find, and have a little bit of redundancy here or there. I'm not preaching against redundancy. I am preaching against bloat and moving parts. The same thing you will see with, AI, essentially, is what's going on there in the coding world, is that it's too many moving parts for it to really know what it's doing, because the entire concept of trying to completely conceptualize all of reality into lambda calculus algorithms is bloated in and of itself. It's unfocused. And that's why things like the Ghibli filters and the Pixar filters make sense and they work and people like them because they're focused. Well, except for the Hayao Miyazaki, who actually created Ghibli. He doesn't like it. I hate how much I hate how much the Ukrainian language loses in linguistic complexity by forcing phoneticism. Russian is a very fun language, but it's a little bit hard. You need to study the language a little bit in order to learn it. Whereas they reduced a lot of the Russian linguistic rules, which are a lot of tons of Eastern linguistic rules, to Western linguistic rules. That's why you see a bunch of Y's. And you lose a lot of the language itself, and it looks silly. A lot of phonetics looks very silly. That's exactly like the later German languages look very silly. Everybody makes fun of them because they are way too phonetic. It is what it is, That is what it is. People think they suffer because they are a real mote in a false world. What if the real thing is the world, and the false self is that which is aggrieved, and that is the locus of suffering? Gnostic cells, pay attention. Ariana Grande disproved hardlock anthroposophical race science by speedrunning every race. She's been a Celt, she's been a Numidian, she's been a Hun, she's been Germani. Unless she's secretly a changeling, and the anthroposophists were right all along. Dun dun dun! I can understand the constant zen rumble of a big truck. You know what I'm saying? I can actually get that. If you just have like one tone and it's like the zen attachment to your movement, and it's solid and it's consistent, I can actually kind of get that. However, in comparison to the zen rumble of a big truck, rice rockets are like meth psychosis. Just awful. Awful when they're idling, awful when they're moving, the worst thing ever when they're doing the crap that everybody hates to see when they're on the road, which is some dipshit swipping around people. Pardon my French, but that is just, it is so annoying. And then they have the nerve to say, look twice for motorcycles. Buddy, no, you are not entitled to people slowing down for you. You are not entitled to people being more cautious for you. If you do not follow the rules, you're probably going to end up getting hurt, and that is nobody's fault but your own. Real talk. Sorry if it comes off harsh, because there's so many little kids, spoiled little kids, 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds, zooming around on their rice rockets. But I have no pity for them. No pity for them. And I got nothing but disdain for the parents that set kids up like that. Nothing but disdain for their parents. Did you know? To get a little grounded and serious, because let's take it down a notch and talk about something very important. That there is a Australian company called Mosaic that are putting nuclear waste materials inside of paving and building roads with them. And this goes to the core of my criticism of Italians. So let me get into this, and there's many videos that you can look up, Naples waste management, stuff like that. Please check that out if you're more curious about this. In Naples, they would take the world's waste and find devious ways of recycling toxic and radioactive materials into building materials and under farms. Look out for Napolese tomatoes and mozzarella. There's a Neapolitan. Naples tomatoes and mozzarella. Look out for those. And into barrels sunk into the Mediterranean. They made a whole career path out of disappearing toxic things instead of responsibly disposing of them. Mimi, I would shoot the sludge into space. Give me the waste. I know what to do with it. Catapult into space. We'll deal with it later. By the time we can get up there and actually mess around up there, we'll be able to. And it's at least a great storage area. So, give me the waste. I know what to do with it. The Palestinian protest popping up, the pro-Palestine protest popping up, reminds me of the one protest that I went to over a police shooting in our area of Gregory Edwards. It wasn't a shooting. It was they arrested him, they hogtied him, they pepper sprayed him, they put a spit mask on him with the pepper spray, and he asphyxiated underneath the spit mask hood. He was an active duty veteran, and that was something that shocked our community and got basically everybody from across the board to protest against Wayne Ivey. But at the same time, you had BLM popping up all over the place, making a mockery of police critical protests for a massive amount of personal wealth gained by BLM organizational managers. And it's not like anybody really got paid on the bottom for that. Like, a few people, I'm sure, got paid for organizing stuff, but mostly it goes to like the people who get the venues and get permission to use our First Amendment right to protest in nefarious and malicious and malignant ways. And yeah, that's that. Like, I went into how police oftentimes assist domestic terrorists in causing scenes in order to get more funding and more attention to their area. That is a fact. You got to look out for that. And you know what? My sheriff isn't too bad. You know, I'd probably rate him like a 6.5. It could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. And you know what? Since Ron DeSantis kicked out Andrew Tate, you know, it really does feel like the area has gotten a little bit better. It feels like there's a little bit more steel in people's spines, and people are genuinely standing up for a little bit more moral standards. Remember the military veteran Aaron Bushnell? He self-immolated after saying he would be no longer complicit in genocide and screamed "Free Palestine" until his last breath. Then the guy guarding the Israel embassy nearby pulled out his gun and held the smoldering remains at gunpoint. What a coward. It's all fun and games till I roll up with my trained gator private army. Go, my dinosaurs! Alright, y'all, this is good for the day. Short episode. Gotta upload it real quick. A little sleepy EP, but I woke up just in time to record one for y'all. Alright, love ya guys, gals. Cheers.